Welcome to another video, guys. Welcome to my channel. Today I have a little bit of a different video. Today we're gonna look at a new contact instrument. I got a message from Drumsound and Bassline Smith. If you are familiar with drum and bass, you might know the name. They're pretty well-known drum and bass artists, and they basically just reached out to me on Twitter and asked if I wanted to do a video about their newest product, which is a bass instrument for contact. Now, obviously, I would love to check that out, so that's what we're gonna do in this video. I've been working on a track recently, and this track was actually inspired by one of the patches that came with that contact library. I was just playing around with it, and I kind of made a little bit of a track, and it's almost done right now. I think there's actually going to be a track for the EP, and I'll give you guys a small little preview of what this sounds like. So it sounds a little like this, and the main bass is this one right here. So don't look at this one. This track is what we're going to be looking at in just a bit, but this is the main bass, and it sounds a little like this. So that's what I have so far. There's a few little sections that need a little bit of work, but I feel like this track is really coming together very nicely. Now, before we're gonna get into the video, if you want to be part of my Discord community, check out the link below this video. There's an invite link in the description, and if you click that, it'll add you to my Discord community, which is a place where we talk about music production, drum and bass, sound design, any of those kind of things. So if you want to come hang out, maybe share some of your music and get some feedback on your tracks, or share some of your knowledge, then feel free to join. I would love to see you guys there. We're actually looking into ways how to make the whole place even better than what it is right now, but I would like to see you guys there. So if you want, check out the invite link below this video. So without further ado, let's get into this one. So the actual library we're going to be looking at today is called Parallax. Now I'm going to let me actually take all of these effects right here. I'm going to group these so that I can turn them off and that we can hear just the contact instrument. So this is the instrument that we're going to be looking at. It's called Parallax, and it's quite interesting, I have to say. So let me bring up the browser here. So here you can see the presets. These are the presets that come with it, and the preset I based the main bass on was this one called Vocrush. So this is what that preset sounds like without any processing. It's very similar to the actual sound in the track. It's just I added a little bit of processing. This is the one that is in my track. So I really took out quite a bit of bass actually, and I probably will have to mix this a little bit better. I'm actually thinking of redoing the bass and making a version in a synthesizer that is slightly, well, just one that I made myself so that I get a little bit more control over it. I have to say, I like the interface. I like what it looks like. It looks pretty good. It's quite interesting how they've done it with the XY controls here. So you can control a couple of different things, and you can actually make your own patches using the predefined layers that you can choose from. So we're going to try that in a bit, but I want to go through some of the presets and just have a listen to what they sound like. So let's drag the first one in here. Yes, I want to replace that. So this one is called Red Limit. We're just going to go through these presets just for a little bit. Am I in the right one? Yeah, I'm in the right one. Okay. So already we have a completely different patch here. Now there's also a lot more processing going on here, so you don't hear like the exact patch. There's a lot more going on, like there's some EQ and some limiting going on, so there's definitely, it might sound a little bit more distorted than it normally does, but if I turn everything off, it's not really going to make sense, because everything is going to be super quiet, and it doesn't really make sense compared to the rest of the track. So I'll leave those effects on, but I've turned off all the effects on the track itself. If I turn those back on, it'll probably sound even worse. Let's see. It's not too bad, actually. It actually cleans it up, so... Count down the contact, the man combat. So that's like a different patch now. Now let's just go through some of these. Airsaw. Count down the contact, the man combat. I guess we should hear these on solo, and let me turn those effects off, because you guys want to hear what they sound like, probably. So, these aren't really, you know, like the sounds that, like that's the thing with this kind of an instrument. You do get some control. Like, you have a filter here that you can actually modulate in quite interesting ways, because they have these XY controls, right? You can actually go in here and you can create pretty much a movement here on the XY control. And in this one in particular, the Multimode Filter, you can record the movement with this button right here, and then you can play it back, so that when the audio is playing, it will actually move these settings right here. Now, if you have a look here, you can basically set the amount somewhere. Oh yeah, if you click one of these, it'll show up the amount here. So you can see the filter frequency is 2.8K. We have a frequency shifter going on, which is this green one right here. And then we have another frequency shifter, which is this one. So you can actually do some interesting effects here. You got some presets for that. And yeah, just overall, it's quite interesting how they've done it. You've got two envelopes here, one for the amp, which is your volume, of course, and an envelope for your pitch. So you can actually add some pitch movement to the start of every note. You also get that XY control right here, which is quite interesting. You can basically attach stuff to this XY control, and this one controls oscillator 1, and this one will control oscillator 2. So you can actually use these to kind of change what the oscillators are doing. In the end, you don't have as much control as with a full-on synthesizer, because this is, in the end, sample-based, but you do get quite a bit of control. Like I can see right here at the top, we have two oscillators that are running in parallel. And then we have a sub oscillator, so you can actually specify, you can go in here, and these are all the layers you can choose from, and you also have a user layer, so you can actually input your own if you want. That's also for oscillator 2 here, and here we have the sub layers, so you can actually include your own there as well. It comes with some unison here, so you can add multiple voices, add some detuning between these voices, so if you want to widen the sound up, you could do that. You can offset the pitch for each oscillator here, so you could, let's say, have one an octave down and one an octave up. You get a mix up here for mixing between the two oscillators, so let's say you want to hear more of oscillator 1 or more of oscillator 2, or maybe you just want to hear oscillator 1, you could do that with this oscillator volume mix. So then we've already talked now about this whole top section, including the envelopes right here. And we've talked about the multimode versatile filter. The filter is interesting though. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. You've got a filter type here. Interesting. I'm not sure how these work, these filter types. But I imagine if you click and drag this, it's going to change the filter type. Oh yeah. So it changes the filter type from left to right. I'm not sure. I think all the way on the left it'll be a low pass, and all the way on the right it'll probably be a high pass, and somewhere in between I think it'll probably be a band pass, but I'm not sure about that. Let's see if we can hear that. Yeah, definitely. So in the middle it's a band pass. On the left, we kind of get like a low pass, and on the right, we get a high pass. So this actually controls the filter type as well, and the filter frequency, which is quite interesting. And the same goes for these. So these will affect the filter type as well. Now it's not doing much right now, but if I turn this up, you can see, so these XY graphs really help changing the sound, and you can record that movement, so let's try that out. I'm just gonna do something like this. I'm gonna hit play, and it's going to play that back, and we can edit it right here, so it's a little bit finicky. It's like you can see, I just recorded it, and now I'm gonna play it back, and it's just gonna stay down here, which is kind of odd. If you change this stuff, it'll actually start moving it, I think. See, so it is moving something now. A little bit weird in the way it works. I'm not sure why it works the way it does, but... But you can add some movement that way, and it's interesting, but I'll have to play around with this and see how it really works, but I'm not too sure about it. It's just... Oh, you actually have the selectors here. Okay, interesting. But you can see what it does. You can see how this works, you know? Yeah, I mean, it kind of works. It's just a little bit finicky. I've seen this before in different synthesizers, especially in the raw pop-and synths. They have the XY graph as well, which kind of have like a similar feature where you can record the movement and then edit it afterwards. I'm not a big fan of how they've done the editing here with the this where you click and drag. I mean, it works. But the way in the raw pop-and synths, they've done it in a slightly different way, where if you click the edit function, it'll basically show up right here on the XY graph, and it'll show basically just points with lines in between them, and you can drag these points around to a particular spot. I think that's a little bit easier to work with than having separate modulation lanes for the x-axis and for the y-axis, because now, let's say I want to move this point to a specific position. I have to change the X graph here, and then I will also have to change the Y graph and kind of play around with it to get it exactly in that spot. Whereas with the raw pop-and way how they've done it, they've added these nodes in the XY graph itself, so you can just click and drag those around and change both the X position and the Y position at the same time. So it's a slightly different way of doing it, but it kind of works. But that's why I say it's a little bit finicky to get it right. But nonetheless, it still works fine, so it's definitely a cool feature to see. Then we have some more stuff. We have insert effects here. So you've got a bunch of effects that you can choose from. So you can actually further change the sound, and that's a pretty good thing. So you get all these effects: chorus, flange, phaser, reverb, delay, tape saturation, stereo, and distortion. So that's a good selection of effects that are definitely helpful. You can set them either post or pre. So that's either before the filter or after the filter. And you also get a send effect. So a little bit less effects types here, so no distortion types, but you can basically just have a parallel chain going on, so you have a parallel effect like some reverb without affecting the clean dry signal. Very helpful, very cool, and this one as well, you could put that post or pre-filter. Then we have the Portamento knob here, so that's your glide time. If you have overlapping notes, you will be able to set the amount of glide time using this one. And below that we've got a distortion knob, which is pretty cool. It's before the filter, but if you bring this up, it'll just basically distort the signal before it goes into the filter, creating a more heavier and more compressed sound, and that's just, you know, for drum and bass, that's really cool. Then at the bottom we've got two more sections. We've got a limiter, which is basically just sitting at the end of the plugin. Basically just make sure that nothing's gonna exceed 0 dB or whatever level you set it at. And then on the right of that, we've got a 3-band EQ that is really helpful to just quickly give the bass a little bit more high frequencies or quickly tone down the low end, you know, stuff like that. So that's it for the entire plugin. That's the entire interface of the plugin. Let's just go through some of these presets now. So I'm gonna load this one up. It's called Atlantic. So let's go to the next one. Techie. This one sounds a bit more, a bit different. Let's have a listen. So this would be more one that you just play in long sustained notes, I think. So you can hear how it definitely sounds cool. This one is better used in like a sustained way, whereas the track I'm writing is more like a rhythmic kind of thing, because see, it's much more of a rhythmic thing, so this kind of bass would be more suited for like a more like a sustained patch, like what I was playing just now. But it's a great sound, and I do think they are a little bit thin every now and then. But that's easily fixed, you know, adding some saturation. It's better to have sounds that are a little bit on the thin side, that you just need to process a little bit to make them fit into your track, than having sounds that are over-processed, because over-processed sounds, you can pretty much do nothing with them anymore. You cannot, you know, take out the processing unless it's like an effect that you can turn off inside the plugin. But, you know, if they would have included like the layers itself, like these layers, if they would have included a bunch that would be like super processed already, it doesn't really make any sense. You cannot really go anywhere. And if something is a little bit on the thin side, and that, you know, if I think it's on the thin side, that's just because of the music that I write. If somebody else is making slightly less heavy drum and bass, they might think this sound is perfectly fine. So it's just, it all depends on what you need. But for the kinds of tracks that I make, I just simply have to process these a little bit more to, well, give them the loudness that they need and to really make them fit the track. But that's fine, you know. I will have to do that with any synthesizer, so it's not just that this Kontakt library is like that. This patch is using the pitch envelope. So here you can see the pitch envelope. If I bring this down, you can really hear we can create that pitch movement that that was already in the sound, but we can completely change it, which is really nice. Next up, this is a preset called Carbon. So again, this would be one for more sustained sounds, I think. Yeah, definitely. This one is a bit more of a deeper one, I think. But you can hear how, because all these are based on samples, they get that nice racy movement when you pitch them up. And that is why sampling is so good for drum and bass. It's just that the movement in your sample will be sped up as soon as you start playing higher pitches, which is really cool. So not so much in this one. This one is not as it doesn't have that much movement. It's more like a sustained sound. Let's see what this one sounds in the track.
Countdown to contact the main combat.
I mean, it's not too bad. This one actually works pretty fine. We've got some more stuff. We've got a Hoover here. That's your classic Hoover sound, and the great thing is you can actually go in here and see what they've done. So let's say I don't like the delay, I can just take that off. And now we don't have the delay. So it is actually pretty easy to work with. Let's say I want to add a bit more distortion. And it adds a bit more distortion. It's that easy. So if you don't know anything about sound design, this could help you get started making drum and bass. And there's some pretty cool sounds in here. This is actually more of like a garage sound. And I actually used this one in the track as well. I've used it right here. That's the same sound, so it's actually that same patch. I've just tweaked it a little bit, and I added some distortion here. So I added some 2 of the amp here, and some EQ, some more distortion, just to make it all a little bit louder. But that's actually coming from the same library as well. So that one is interesting. This one, the movement doesn't speed up, which means that the movement in this particular patch is created with an LFO and is not part of the actual sample. So you can do that as well. You have an LFO right here. So you can use this LFO to control stuff like the filter. Like you can load a filter on every one of these oscillators. So if you have like a filter on oscillator 1, you could use this LFO to connect to the filter and move that filter over time. So you can still create stuff like that as well. It's not just that you have to use the movement in the patch. There's sustained layers in here, and there's also layers with movement already, which is quite cool. So that one sounds like a nice Reese. Let's have a listen to what this one sounds like in the track.
Countdown to contact the main combat.
I mean, they don't sound as good as the one I already have, but that is mostly because this whole track is built around that patch that around that other patch, right? So it's not EQ'd properly. I would have to work on this to make it fit completely right, but for demonstration purposes, this is completely fine. So you also have this kind of stuff. More like a hollow type bass. And let's just go on with these presets. We've got some good heavy 808s. We can distort that and get some really nasty 808s out this one. This one. Like a really, really harsh sounding one, which could be cool for like a top frequency layer for a Reese. So that one, another classic type of Reese. This one is using the Multimode Filter, I think. So that one uses the Multimode Filter, I think at least, because it's called Multimode. Then we have Organ Donor. So that's more like an organ. Then we get Orpheus. So again, that one uses the LFO to create the movement, instead of having the movement of the actual layer. Ouija. Okay, so that one is more like your noisy kind of neuro-y bass. And I think this one could actually work with this particular patch, or with this particular MIDI file. So yeah, you really get that noisy type of sound. I would probably distort this one a little bit more, but I think if I distort it right here, it'll affect the low end as well. Yeah, I probably would add like a little bit of distortion to just the high frequencies of this one. I think it would definitely benefit of that. But it's a cool sound. You hear this kind of sound a lot in Neurofunk recently. So then we have this one called Oxide. This one has some interesting overtones. It almost sounds like it's in a different pitch, but it actually isn't. So I'm interested to dive into this one and see how they've made this particular layer. I'll see if I can actually extract the layers from this. I think I can. They should be somewhere here, I think. Yeah, so here we have all the samples. I'll have a look at this one later and see if I can see how they've done it. Because it sounds like it's in a different pitch, but it's not, which is cool. Next one we have Paper Cut. Interesting. Then we have the Parallax default patch. So this one, I'm pretty glad that they've included a default patch with everything set to 0, everything resetted. So this one you can just use. You can just start off loading one of the layers here, start off loading one of these layers in the second oscillator, choose one of the sub oscillators, and from there, you know, get started making your own version of one of these patches. So you can actually make your own, which is really great. It actually, even if you don't know much about sound design, it'll still kind of introduce you to sound design, and you can, in fact, learn it a little bit. Like, this is a pretty simple setup. It's not like it's super complicated. There's not a lot going on. You basically just have your oscillators, your envelopes, filter, effects, and that's it. So everything in one screen. It's pretty easy to get used to. And I think if you know nothing about sound design, but you do have contact, pick this one up and just try and learn how it works. Try and figure it out. And it'll probably help you out when you want to get into actual sound design with synthesizers. Because it's all pretty much the same. It's all pretty much straightforward. It's just that not every synthesizer will have an XY control. Sometimes they'll do it with like just regular knobs or stuff like that. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. And it's pretty much similar to a lot of synthesizers out there. Then we've got phases. This one works really well for rhythmic kind of basses. This one is more like something that I could even use in like a jump up style track. Because it's really like a rhythmic kind of bass. Then we have Proto. Again, pretty good bass sound. I would probably add a little bit of sub to these, but I'm also reducing the amount of sub because I just had to, because this track is so loud. And if I didn't do that, it would pretty much just distort. So I had to take some sub out. This one called Raver. Of course, this is more like your classical rave type synth. And the movement speeds up, so that tells us that the movement is actually part of the original sample. Next up, we've got Reality. Oh, that's a nice one as well. This one probably doesn't work for this particular pattern that we have. Yeah, see, it doesn't really work too well, but it's still an interesting patch. Next one up is called Renegade. It's more like a sub patch. Ooh, that's low. The sub is really low in that one. It actually sounds good, but the rest sounds a little bit too low. But that one sounds cool as well. It's more like a subby kind of thing. Ring any bells. Okay, so that's more like a plucky kind of sound. It's not just bass sounds in here. There's some synth stuff in it as well. Then we've got Serious Business. This is one of the more heavier patches in the whole Contact library. It kind of works in a rhythmic fashion, but I think it would be better if we have some longer notes in here as well, because the longer notes definitely sound cool. Now we're getting to the end of the amount of presets here, so here we have Seventh Heaven. More like a synthy type thing, but pretty cool. And then we have Sixth Sol. More like a Sol-based kind of thing, not as detuned as some of the other ones, but still an interesting one. This is like your really classic type of Reese. Really more like an old school type of Reese. Sore Head. Okay, that one is pretty heavy as well. I like that first initial kind of sound. Next up we've got Spiral. See, that's an interesting one. That's like a really classic drum and bass sound. Almost like a jungle bass. Okay, so the movement is created by an LFO. And then we have Squared. Obviously just like a square wave type Reese. Strike. This is more like a synth one, I think. Well, more like a pluggy slash stabby one. So for a rhythmic thing, this could work, but I don't think... It has not too much detuning. So it's really like it's not detuned at all. But we could do that. Like, let's try that out. I could say, let's say, add a couple of voices here. Give it some detuning. So even if the original patch isn't wide, we could still make it wider. Supercell. Another pretty interesting Reese. Techno. Interesting. It has a really nice stabby kind of sound at the start, and then it comes in with like almost like a Reese-y kind of thing. Very interesting. I do like the first hit though. And we could use that hit, just that hit, if we just create a really short note. Because the Reese comes in after that. So if I just play one short note, we get that hit. Really cool. Do we have more presets in here? Yeah, we do have a few more. That one sounds pretty dirty. We've got Truth. More Reeses. This is just a lot of Reese basses in here. The vibrator bass. Yeah, it kind of vibrates. Then we have Vortex. Another Reese. There's quite a bit of Reeses in here because that's what it's aimed at, but they are quite interesting. I love them, but like I said, some of them... Like this one is pretty good sounding for what I make, but some of these patches for the kind of drum and bass that I make, which is like very heavy nerve funk, they are a little bit too thin or too simple sounding. Like most of those deeper ones are not really ones that I would use. Same for like the one with the organ type sound. I wouldn't really use that. Like the old school ones that I showed you just now. That's all more for like old school style drum and bass, which is cool drum and bass. Definitely, I love listening to it, but it's just not what I produce. What I produce is more heavier stuff, and therefore I would, you know, use stuff like this a lot more. Like this patch is good for me. But like a lot of the other ones, I don't see me using it a lot, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad sound. You know, it doesn't mean that's a bad plugin. It's actually pretty cool. I like this. And I really like to see more drum and bass aimed stuff being released for Kontakt, because Kontakt is such a good sampler for drum and bass. And yeah, this little library really does something interesting. So we have one more preset. Again, pretty cool one. And that's it. That's for all the presets. So that is it for Parallax by Bassline and Drumsound Smith. I hope you liked this little demonstration video. I'll give you guys a little more of a preview of the track before we're gonna stop this video. Because this track is really starting to sound pretty cool. So, here we go. If you want to get Drumsound and Bassline Smith Parallax, I will include a link in the description below this video, so if you want to check it out yourself, feel free to do so. Damn. Yeah, before we're going to stop this video, let's have a listen to what this track is sounding like right now.
Take the man combat.
So that's it. I'm not going to spoil too much more of the track. There's a few gaps in the drop that need to be filled up with something. I'm just going to have to make some sounds, some more, like, I'm thinking about some really wide synthy kind sounds just to fill it up a bit. And I might have to make a few more modulated kind of bass sounds that do, well, you know, something on the end of a phrase like, wow, you know, something crazy. You all know what it you all know what it needs. So that's it, what this track is turning into. I really like what this is turning into. Now, that's it for this video. I hope you like this particular one. I hope to see you upcoming Friday for a live stream again. 8 PM Central European Time on this YouTube channel and on my Twitch. We will do a live stream about drum and bass probably. We're gonna be working on a track. I'm not sure if I'll be working on this track because it's pretty much almost done. As you can see, we have more than, what is it? We almost have 5 minutes of track here, so I'm pretty much done. Just have to fill out some of these little gaps here, and I'll have to work on some of the arrangement a bit to make it all flow better, but yeah, I really like this one. I've actually got a treat, a special treat coming up as well for you guys in the second drop, but I won't play that right now, so that's a little cliffhanger, a little teaser for you guys. You'll have to wait until the EP is out for you to hear what that's gonna sound like. So, upcoming next, I'm gonna be doing the UVI Falcon Cinematic Shades video, and after that I'll probably do the video about UVI Spark Verb, and yeah, I hope to see you back soon. Peace.